Hello everyone, welcome back to Powerful Nothing and Magic the Gathering Cube podcast. I'm your host Dan, and as always, I'm joined by James. James, how are you doing, my boy?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks.
Wonderful. Yeah, today we have a cool episode for everyone. Today we're going to be doing a bit of a package review for Persist Combos. But before we jump into that, just a quick reminder, please give the podcast a thumbs up, a 5-star review, tell a friend, all that goodness. And also, we will try and touch on and describe every card that we mention, but there is also a link down to a card gallery in the show notes below if you want to load that up and look at the cards as we're talking about them. Just might help out a little bit with some of the more complicated cards that we're going to be talking about today. But with that, James, talk to us about Persist Combos.
Yeah, so today we're going to be looking at a sort of combo package, which I see crop up in a lot of cubes. I think with mixed results, and I think is kind of misused a lot in terms of what cubes it goes in. So this is the Persist combo package. So think stuff like Kitchen Finks, Murderous Redcap, Sac Outlets. It used to be a modern deck back in the day, and it now crops up in a ton of cubes.
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the reasons why it sees so much cube play is because it's one of the cubes that has... it's one of the combos that has a lot of redundancy. It's kind of why people like Splinter Screen and Kiki Jiki, because there's at least two ways of doing it. In larger cubes, it means you're likely to see the pieces. Persist is kind of a similar thing. There's a bunch of creatures... It requires more bits than some other like 2-card combos, but there's lots of redundant effects for it. And a lot of those effects we want to run anyway. So that's why I think Persist Combos has been quite popular, but it does have a certain place in a certain type of cube, and that's what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. So diving into what the combo is and how it works. So Persist is a keyword that was introduced back in Shadowmoor, I believe. And Persist is a keyword that appears on a bunch of different creatures. And it says, when this creature dies, if it had no -1/-1 counters on it, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control with a -1/-1 counter. So generically, this is a fine value mechanic, right? Your creature can trade with one of our creatures or a removal spell, and it comes back slightly smaller. If it dies again, it's gone forever. Fine. However, we can have combo applications with this, with several different effects, which in some way prevent that -1/-1 counter going onto the creature when it comes back. So you combine that with a sacrifice outlet and a persist creature, and you can just go round and round and round. You can keep sacrificing the same creature. It's going to lead to things like infinite sacrifices, infinite death triggers, infinite ETBs. You can win the game from that.
Yeah, I believe it was actually the introduction to Persist that caused them to change the rules that +1/+1 counters and -1/-1 counters cancel each other out. Previously, they were two different types of counters you had to track, so that's fun. But yeah, Persist, very cool. It does work it does work very nicely as a combo, and also at time of recording, Shadowmoor is the next, or Return to Lauren is the next set. They've already spoiled a card with Persist, so this is an archetype that will be getting new juice. I'm looking at Urdu, Carrier of the Dawn, that flips into Isilu, Carrier of Twilight, and the backside of this card gives other non-token creatures you control Persist, and that's a card that's coming out soon, so expect to see more cards with Persist in the coming months. So nice little prep episode before we kick off with some new goodness, basically.
I honestly had no idea this topic was so topical. It's all lining up.
I'll be honest, I only found out myself when I was scryfalling creatures with Persist to remind myself for this episode. But expect to see some more, so that's all good. And yeah, James, one thing I kind of touched on is that this isn't normally a 2-card combo. You normally need 3, maybe sometimes 4 cards for this to kind of cook off. What kind of cards are we looking for when we're like trying to make this combo work?
Yeah, so cause it's a 3-card combo, that means you're going to want redundancy, and you're really going to want the cards to do something when you're not comboing with them, you know? If you have a bunch of blanks in your deck that only work when you assemble a specific 3 of them together, your deck's going to struggle a little bit in most cubes. But fortunately, a lot of these combo pieces have a ton of other applications. Either they have crossover synergies with other combo archetypes or other synergy archetypes, or they're just generically powerful Magic cards. You know, you can play a fair game, and then you'll just have this route to a combo finish in your deck.
Cool. So from looking, there is probably about like somewhere between 25 and 30 cards at time of recording with Persist. But let's talk about the good ones, the ones that actually see some cube play. Should we touch on Kitchen Finks, James? Is that everyone's favorite normally?
Love a Kitchen Finks. Love a Kitchen Finks. This has the upside of being a defensible Magic card to put in a deck, even if you weren't comboing. Like, not a good Magic card to put in a deck in most cubes in 2025, if we're being honest. But it does stuff, right? It's pretty good against aggro. This is a 3-mana, 3/2. It's hybrid white or green, so really easy to cast. And when it ETBs, you gain 2 life. So it's going to block something, it's going to gain you some life, it's going to come back, it's going to gain you some more life. Happy days. It does our combo thing. It's a relatively cheap Persist creature, so it's going to enable our combo really nicely. And crucially, it means that even if we're doing our combo and our sacrifice outlet doesn't kill them, and our combo enabler doesn't kill them, so we're not sacrificing something like a Goblin Bombardment, which is going to give us infinite damage right away. Well, the Kitchen Finks coming back a bunch of times does give us infinite life. So now that doesn't mean the game's over necessarily. There are decks, certainly decks in a lot of cubes, which can win through infinite life, but it's going to be very, very challenging for most decks.
Yeah, for me, I think the bonus of Kitchen Finks is 3 mana is quite easy to cast. You can get it out on curve, and also like realistically, the life, like the infinite life, is nice, but it's more just like you're a combo deck. You're trying to buy yourself time until you can combo off like fully. So the life gain is nice with this because effectively that could be an extra turn, or it's at least 2 blocks plus a bit of extra life that can buy you the time you need to find the rest of your combo pieces.
Yeah, for sure. It's I think there definitely was a stage where you'd say this is just a good card, right? I think we're slightly past that, but I think it is, it still does something when you're not comboing a lot more than some of certainly like the 2-mana persistent creature options, I think.
No, definitely. But let's touch on one that is a little bit more expensive in Murderous Redcap. It's 2 hybrid Rakdos for a 2/2 for a creature Goblin Assassin. And when it enters, it deals damage equal to its power to any target, and obviously it also has Persist. So the benefits of this one are that if you can assemble the combo with it, it can win you the game. It is one like that damage can go face, and it can win you the game. Obviously, the downside is it's a little bit more expensive. Double black normally in this deck is a little bit tougher on the mana than hybrid green white. But Murderous Redcap is probably going to see play if you're doing this archetype, James. Would you agree?
Yeah, this is it's nice that it wins you the game on its own. It doesn't require your Sac Outlet to do something. It can kill a creature on the way in, but it's 4 mana and it's not killing that much, Ravenous Chupacabra, this is not. But yeah, it's a card I would recommend including if you're building this deck, because it's nice that it does just kill them.
Exactly. And then 2 cards that we want to touch on in Putrid Goblin and Safehold Elite. These are both 2 mana, 2/2 creatures with Persist. The Goblin is a black pip. The Safehold Elite has a hybrid white-green pip. But these don't really these are good because they are cheap, they can get in the deck, and we love that. But they only go in this kind of persisty combo deck. Like a 2-mana 2/2 that makes a 1/1 in 2025 is not cutting it. But it's nice that these are cheap threats that you can play on your combo turn. Like one of the things about this deck is that there is a lot of cheap, efficient creatures that do this combo so you can play them all in one turn. You can just dump your hand on turn 5 and win the game seemingly out of nowhere. And both Putrid Goblin and Sac Outlets Elite are good in the decks that want to be comboing off like this. Would you go with that, James?
Yeah, for sure. I think these are the ones you include if you're a little bit more committed to doing the combo thing. Because these are bad cards outside of that. But if you're really good at enabling the combo, you actually don't care about that, right? You just want the cheapest way to do the thing. And these are the cheapest that you get. So they're good to include there. They're easy to cast. I guess like Putrid Goblin, theoretically, if you were desperate, you could put in your Aristocrats deck, right? Because it's 2 sacrifices. But it's not good there. This is really the only deck that's going to be happy with it.
No, I would agree with that. There is we'll touch on it a bit later, but there is like a cool little goblin edge to this deck you can sort of take. We'll touch on that a little bit at the end. But James, you want to talk about a card I'm going to guess you're a fan of this card. Talk to me about Glen Elendra Archmage.
Oh, this card's so sick. I swear, like, sort of 2015 Vintage Cube, this card was just unbeatable. It was so good. It isn't really true anymore, but it is still a very powerful card. Like, of the cards we have on this list, this is the most generically good card, I would say. So this is the 3 and a blue for a 2/2 flyer with Persist, and you can pay a blue and sacrifice it to counter target non-creature spell. So outside of this combo, you want to play this with 5 mana, so you can cast it and have 1 blue left. You counter onto a spell. You don't, and you can be selective about what you counter, right? And in the right matchup where they're all about their non-creature spells, this is sort of one of those grown test cards. It's kind of the worst thing your opponent can play if you're looking to resolve expensive non-creature spells. The reason it's on this list, it's not very good as a persist combo piece, right? It's 4 mana and it doesn't win you the game like Murderous Redcap does. And to be clear, when we say it doesn't win you the game, it does the thing. You can sacrifice it infinitely with an enabler, but it just means that you need something else that's triggering to actually end the game. So hopefully that's going to be like your sacrifice outlets is maybe something like Goblin Bombardment, which deals the damage to them, or it might be something like you have a Blood Artist type effect sitting around. But yeah, so this is expensive and it doesn't win you the game just off the trigger. But it is a really good card, which may well be in your cube anyway, so it's sort of worth highlighting as this is sort of an extra one you get for free sometimes. But yeah, it's very much a secondary consideration because it's not very good as a combo piece, and blue is generally not like a super common color for this deck to be in.
Yeah, the colors does make it a bit tricky, but just on like the... We will touch on power level on this cube. Oh, sorry. We will touch on power level of this archetype in a little bit, but I do think that the cubes where this archetype is really viable, I'm going to say Glen Elendra is still a good Magic card there.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. The last one I did just want to mention, not because it's really for this deck. Well, it works in this deck, but it's a card that you will often see in cubes, and that is Woodfall Primus. It does have Persist. That's the big 8 mana 6/6 trample, comes in, destroys target non-creature permanent, and it has Persist. I'm not saying that, like, what I'm suggesting with this more is that this isn't in for the combo deck, but if you are doing the combo, you're probably going to have a big green idiot in your cube. So therefore, why not include Woodfall Primus anyway? Like, it's not going to be your primary plan, but having it in the deck as a nice backup, it's not the end of the world. Would you go with that, James? Or is Woodfall Primus a bit too... Is 8 mana too much for the low to the ground creature combo deck? Okay, maybe I'm talking myself out of it. But it does have Persist.
Yeah, I think this is a card with Persist that will often be in your cube. I agree with that. It's very powerful. I think this is a trap for the Persist combo player, actually. Like, 8 is too much. you can't be just trying to cast 8 drops to combo with. Your 8 drop needs to win you the game on its own. This ain't it. This is a card for sneak attack. It's a card for flash. It's a card for reanimate. It's not a card for persist combo. I guess the one time you could make an argument for it, right, is imagine because sometimes these combo decks have a bit can go into the like self-mill recurring nightmare-y type space, right? So this is maybe a bit of a bridge card then. Like you maybe want your Woodfall Primus because you want to get it back from the graveyard and it has a bit of added utility because you could theoretically combo with it. But in general, this is not... You shouldn't view this as a combo piece for this deck, I think.
That's fair. And I think that's actually a good lesson, especially as we are a couple of months out of, in theory, a period where we're going to be getting... we may just get the one that they've spoiled, but we could get another couple. We could see some more Persist Creatures. Like, we've also seen them in Modern Horizons. So this is kind of a blanket statement to kind of future-proof us a little bit, is the ones that we like for this archetype are either ones that have a good ETB and effect we want. So Kitchen Finks buys us time. Murderous Redcap wins us the game. Or they're cheap and efficient in cards like Putrid Goblin or Safe Old Elite. Like, really, what we really want in this deck is like a hybrid white-green 1/2 with Persist. Like, that would almost be perfect. But so just keep those in mind if you're listening to this episode sometime in the future when they've spoiled a whole bunch of cool new Persist cards from Return to Lorwyn, etc. Marvelous. But let's actually touch on... So those are our Persist creatures. James, talk to me about some of the cards that's going to stop the Persist working as intended. Is that the best way to put it? What cards are we combining with it to stop the -1 counters going onto it?
Yeah, generally, I feel like building cubes... You don't want all the mechanics to work as intended by Richard Garfield, you know? I think for cubes where all the mechanics work as intended are very boring, personally. So one of the key parts of this combo, obviously, is we want a way to stop that -1/-1 counter going back on our creature when it comes back. So the first one of these we're going to talk about is Vizier of Remedies. So this is 1 white for a 2/1. And it says if a -1/-1 counter would be put on a creature you control, you put that many -1/-1 counters on that creature instead. And now just looking it up to make sure that's actually what it says. That is actually what it says. That was from memory. So this has the upside of it's cheap. It's easy to cast. It's a single white pip. White is a common color for us to be in this. And it's cool that it has the sort of secondary application with Devoted Druid. People who played Modern of a certain era will remember it. Devoted Druid is the mana dork where you can put a -1/-1 counter on it to untap it. It's a pretty playable card in this foul level of cube anyway, so it's cool that you get a little extra combo for free, you know?
It's how we're casting our Woodful Primus, James.
Exactly.
Making infinite mana.
Exactly.
There we go.
It's all coming together. It's all coming together. So I like this one because it has the crossover and it's cheap, basically. It's outside of that, it's a bad card though, right? It's if you're not comboing with this card, it's suspiciously like Goblin Piker.
It very much is, especially and it sticks out a bit more in white. Let me read another one, James. Smilera Silvok Outcast. This basically does a very similar thing. 1 green 2/2 legendary creature human scout. You can't get poison counters. Could be relevant. But importantly, creatures you control can't have -1/-1 counters placed on them, and creatures your opponents control lose infect. So this is effectively Vizier of Remedies. It doesn't, I believe, work as nicely with Devoted Druid because you can't put the counter on it. You can't pay the cost of untapping Devoted Druid. That stops it. But this still works with the Persist combo how we want it to. It allows us to infinitely sack our persist creatures. Correct, James?
Yeah, exactly. This is a card that I think has never been used as intended. But the hate piece for Infect decks did not turn out to be its main role. Yeah, no, so this is similar to Vizier, right? It's cheap, it's easy to cast. You lose that crossover with the Devoted Druid thing that has the upside of an extra point of toughness. That's relevant. Also, I'd say you're almost always going to be green, right, in these decks, and sometimes you're a bit more green-black based, so arguably green is a slightly better color for this than white. But yeah, I'd say this is very much in a similar space to Vizier.
No, that tracks. But then talk to us about another one, James. An Offenza Kintree Spirit. I like this one because this one has a bit of play, like in some of the other in some white aggressive decks. But just talk to me about this Spirit Soldier.
Yeah, so this is sort of the other end of that scale, right? This is a much better card when you're not comboing. So this is white for a 2/2 creature. And it says, whenever another non-token creature you control enters, bolster 1. So bolster is choose a creature with the least toughness among creatures you control and put a -1/-1 counter on it. So theoretically with this, you can run into an issue where the thing you need to... The creature you're persisting is not the lowest toughness. But in reality, almost all the ones we talked about, right, are 2/2s that come back as 1/1s. So they have to have the lowest toughness. I guess worth noting, if you're trying to do the Woodfall Primus Persist deck, this doesn't work that well. But yeah, this is a much better card in that you can put it in a white beatdown deck perfectly happily. But white on the 2-drop is just kind of tough, right? I don't know. I find it tough. White, you're just not casting as consistently as you want to in most of these decks. So I would be nervous of this for that reason. But I guess it's if you think this is a solid inclusion for your white beatdown deck, then it's cool that you get another combo piece in, right? Without having to have a dedicated slot.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I would agree that, for me, this is a creature-based combo deck. Like, when we get to some of the enablers, like things like tutors, some of the support cards for this are more creature-based things. So having all your effects on creatures is nice, and the fact that it overlaps with a bunch of other decks, I like. Like one card, like I'll move on to our next card because it does work in with the combo, but it does fall short on attacking and blocking. I guess is Solemnity. It's an enchantment that says players can't get counters, and counters can't be put on artifacts, creatures, enchantments, or lands. So with Persist, you just they never get the option to have a -1/-1 counter put on them. Solemnity is a very all-in card. It is the definition of a do-nothing enchantment. But Solemnity does combo with a bunch of other stuff, which is cool. There's like some Undying stuff. But even though I've just said that, quick note, just don't put Undying and Persist in the same cube. It's a bit too much of a pain. Undying is the opposite. When they die, they come back with counters on them. Things don't combo as you want them to, and it can just... It screams people having two halves of a combo that don't work. So that's just a little PSA for everyone. But Solemnity, coming back to topic, is a cool card, but very, very much all in. Like, yes, we're not super high on a card yes, Putrid Goblin, only really good in this deck, but it can still attack or block. This is a 3-mana, still getting... With this, you're spending 3 mana, and that Rabble Master is still punching you in the face, James. Fair?
Yes, for sure. The reason I put this card on the list is I think some of the other combos are kind of cool. But yeah, this is worse as a combo piece for this deck than basically all the others. Because it's not blocking, but also, right, to set up your creature combo deck, you're going to play a bunch of cards that find creatures and get them into play for you. And this doesn't work with any of them, you know? You can't Birthing Pod for this. You can't Green Sun Zenith for it. You can't Worldly Tutor and put it on top of your library. So it's fine in isolation, and that it's a combo piece, and it's hard for them to kill, right, compared to a creature. But in reality, if you want to do some of the other Solemnity combo stuff, then it's cool that you get a combo piece for free here, but I wouldn't include it for this deck.
No, I think that's fair. And then the last I'm going to group this next bunch together. Cards like Good Fortune Unicorn, Arwen Weaver of Hope, Railway Brawler, and Grumgully the Generous. What effectively these do is these say whenever another creature comes in, it comes in with a counter on it. And that's what I was talking about earlier about. But effectively, that works how we want it to with the Persist creatures in that it counteracts the -1/-1. Like, yes, it comes in with a -1/-1, but comes in with a +1/+1, and it counters out and then leaves. So it's effectively reset. That's very nice. So there's a bunch of these out there. They all kind of work quite nicely. These are generally good if you're thinking of doing like an overlap with a +1/+1 counter deck, for example. Like Good Fortune Unicorn stats-wise isn't the strongest, but if you're combining it with some other +1/+1 counter synergy, it can be quite a nice little lever to pull there.
Yeah, for sure. I think these are cool. The idea here, right, is you're not having to dedicate as many slots as you otherwise would to this. Like Railway Brawler especially is just a pretty legit card, right? Like I remember talking about that in the set review when it came out. And I'm not saying it's better than Questing Beast, but like you could cut Questing Beast to this card and it would go in the same decks that people put the Questing Beast in before, right?
So that's the second part of our little combo. We have our Persist creatures. We have our things that allow them to persist infinitely. Next up, James, we have Sacrifice Outlets. We need ways of being able to control when the creatures die, when the Persist creatures die, in order to trigger their effects and come back and that kind of stuff. Like, what are we looking for from a Sacrifice Outlet here, James? Like, what is your favorite of the many ones out there? I'm assuming, firstly, free is very important.
Yes, we're looking for free Sac Outlets specifically here. If you have to pay mana, it does not count. So what I'm looking for out of these is I want it to be cheap. Ideally, we want it to be a creature for the same reasons we discussed earlier, because that means we can find it with the same things that find all of our other combo pieces. And ideally, we want it to win us the game. So when we were discussing the Persist creatures, right, we said the nice thing about Red Cap was it wins us the game even if our Sac Outlet isn't killing them. But if we're comboing with something like Putrid Goblins, say, and our Sac Outlet didn't do anything other than sacrifice a creature, well, our Putrid Goblin can go round and round all it likes, but unless we have something else triggering, we're not actually progressing the game, right? We can't really get all of those. There aren't really amazing ones that meet all of those criteria, but there are really good ones that meet sort of two of those three criteria and have a bunch of other applications, right? So I think Viscera Seer is probably the best of the cheap creatures. That's a 1 mana 1/1. You can sack a creature to scry one. So obviously, as cheap as it gets, sacking creatures to scry is like pretty reasonable anyway. You can put this in an Aristocrats deck and it'll be good. It's not just for Persist, and it's also kind of nice that if you have in this scenario where you have a Putrid Goblin, it's not killing them when you sacrifice it. Well, you get infinite scries, so you can at least set up killing them next turn, right? So that's kind of nice. So yeah, of the cheap creatures, I think Viscera Seer is the best. There's also stuff like Carrion Feeder, but I think that is mostly worse. That has the upside of obviously you get infinite counters on it, so you have a very big attacker, but if they have one blocker, you're out of luck. And I think that's generally worse than Viscera Seer, I would say.
So in a similar vein, so sticking with creatures for a moment, we have Warren Soul Trader, which is a cool little goblin that's 2 and a black. Creature, zombie, goblin, wizard, pay 1 life, sack another creature, create a treasure token. So if we're not gaining life in some way, this doesn't technically go infinite, but it can get us pretty close to infinite. Or it can. We don't have to go infinite. We have to go to 20 damage. That's normally how this works, and this will normally get us pretty close to there. And if we're doing anything else, like if we're draining them for more life, or like if we're draining for life, or if we're gaining life with the kitchen finks, or if we're dealing them more damage than one a turn, then we can kind of get there with this. And what's nice about this is that it makes us mana to have explosive turns to cast our spells. Like worst case scenario, this and a putrid goblin is 2 extra treasure that we can have an explosive turn later on in the game. Like, are you a fan of Warren Soul Trader, James?
Yeah, I think this one's cool because it has other combo applications, right? You can do stuff with, say, Gravecrawler can just go round and round for a Warren Soul Trader, and that's pretty cool. And it's nice when your combo pieces exist in multiple combo decks. I'm a big fan of, if you're going to do creature combo, kind of commit to it, do a bunch of them, and then you justify all the pieces to set it up. And yeah, it's cool when cards exist in multiple combo decks. Yeah, this is not the best Sac Outlet for Persist because you kind of need something that's gaining you life or dealing damage to go with it. But it's great if you have kitchen finks and, maybe you're running a blood artist or something, in which case that all works.
And then another creature that's just very good, and like I'm assuming Yawgmoth Thran Physician kind of gets into the conversation, James, just because it's just a really good creature that also has some sacrificing abilities. I'll read it now. Yawgmoth Thran Physician is 2 black for a 2/4 legendary creature human cleric. It has protection from humans, which will come up. Pay 1 life, sacrifice another creature, put a -1/-1 counter on up to 1 target creature, and draw a card. And it has black, discard a card, proliferate. This seems a bit more kind of like Swiss Army knife. Or is this just a massive Viscerous here, James? Is that how you're viewing this?
I mean, I think Yawgmoth's just an incredible card. Like, it's just one where this is already going to be in a lot of the cubes where you'll want to run this. If you're running Aristocrats in your cube, for example, and that has a lot of natural crossover with this deck, obviously you both want Sac Outlets. This is kind of the best Aristocrats card, right? Like, just that has ever been made, I think. It does so much. In terms of cube, it does so much for you. Like, sure, it's 4 mana, but it's drawing you cards as a free Sac Outlet. Like, sack a creature, draw a card is just everything that deck wants, and it's killing their creatures at the same time. The card's kind of ridiculous. The only reason you don't see this card in a ton of like powered cubes is because the Aristocrats deck isn't good enough. It's not that this card isn't good enough, it's but this card's kind of cracked. So it's going to be in a lot of the cubes anyway. And it does the thing to a certain extent with Persist. Like, again, you'll need, to go actually infinite, you'd need something like a Kitchen Finks because it is costing you a life every time. But the thing is, if you have a Putrid Goblin instead, say, and oh no, I could only activate this 15 times. I only drew 15 cards and killed all of their creatures. Like, and no, I think you're probably doing okay in that game.
Yeah, that seems pretty good. So kind of like those are the creature Sac Outlets we're going to touch on. I think that, like, again, there are a bunch more free Sac Outlets on creatures out there, but the things that we're trying to highlight with these is that we either want them to be cheap, we want them to be making us mana, we want them to be digging us through our deck as well. So like that's where like the Scry on Viscerous here or the draw card from Yawgmoth really kind of come in clutch. They're kind of helping us find our combo bits. So that's kind of those are things we're looking for on the creature side of things. Let's move over to some non-creature ones, James. That difference will become more important when we get on to some of the support cards, as I've alluded to, things like Creature Tutors. But talk to me about Goblin Bombardment in this deck, James.
Yeah, if you didn't care about it being the creature, I think this would just kind of be the best one. And is great in loads of other decks, right? So Goblin Bombardment is 1 red for an enchantment, sack a creature, deal 1 damage to any target. So this is just a good card if you have stuff to sacrifice. You can kill their little creatures. You can cash in your guys. It's a strong card. Combines in disgusting ways with a Jarnina Castle Pariah as well. But you probably shouldn't put that card in your Persist combo cube, to be honest. In this deck, it does everything you want, right? It's cheap and it just kills them. There's no extra room to jump through. You're not having to pay life or anything like that. If you have this and a Persist creature and a way to stop the counters going on, they're just going to die. And if you don't have the whole combo set up, you can, like, cashing in your creatures for damage will also be a relevant thing, right? You can pick off X1s, you can, block and then sack your creatures to kill something else. This is just a powerful card.
Yeah, 100%. I think Goblin Bombardment was one of my most improved cards over the last couple of years, just as there's more things that do dumb things with it. Yeah, love Goblin Bombardment. And also, it is importantly a way that ends the game, as James was touching on. A similar type of effect is Altar of Dementia. This is too generic for an artifact that has sacrifice a creature, target player mills cards equal to the sacrificed creature's power. So, similarly to kind of when we're talking in the Persist Creatures about why something like Murderous Redcap gets in because when you're comboing off, it wins you the game. This does it too. With this, you can infinitely, I mean, you can mill out yourself for some reason, but you can mill out your opponent and win the game that way. When this deck really ticks is when one of the three pieces wins you the game, and you don't really get that with the things that muck around with the persist counters, like negating the counters. It's normally either the sacrifice outlet or it's the persist creature itself. And Altar of Dementia is a very, very good way of winning a game because you are going to mill out your opponent. It has it has some utility in terms of getting you to the combo. Like if you, like James touched on, kind of doing some cool recursion stuff maybe in this deck. Maybe you are leaning into black a little bit more. There are builds of this deck that use the graveyard as a resource, and then you can reanimate your combo piece or something like that. Maybe like Dread Return, bring back a key combo piece from the graveyard, something like that. There are recursion spells that work from the graveyard as well. So you can be quite all in with Altar of Dementia, but it is a cool little lever you can pull with this deck as well. And it is nice that it lets you win the game while you are in the middle of comboing off. You don't need a fourth piece, as it were.
Yeah, I think this is a really good one. Say win the game on the spot. It's colorless, right? It's cheap. And I think milling yourself to set up recursion is a cool angle, and it's this has some combo applications outside of this deck as well, right? I guess the only downside is if you're trying to mill your opponent out, you can run into issues for things like Eldrazi, but it's not a huge consideration. Also, I guess technically with this, right? Because there's a difference between trying to mill them out in something like this, which is infinite, versus something like Brain Freeze, which is going to be finite. Because this is actually infinite, if they have an Eldrazi, theoretically, because every time they shuffle in their deck, it's in a random order, right? You can theoretically just keep going until the Eldrazi is the bottom card. And and then they have a turn, right? So that's kind of funny. But yeah, no, this is a good card. I think mostly where I'm at with the Sac Outlets is, and the reason we've given you a bunch, right? We've not just said these are the three best ones. Play the ones that do other stuff in your cube, you know? Like maybe you include one like Viscera Seer that's a bit more like specific for this deck, but I think generally like play the ones that fit in your cube because like they will mostly work. You'd want at least I'd want one that wins the game at least. But in general, I think try and have some crossover here because you always want to limit the number of cards which only go in one deck, right? And I think this is a good opportunity to do that.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. Kind of like, for those who have kind of seen this archetype in something like Commander, people might be wondering why we're not touching on a card like Ashnod's Altar. That's a 3-mana artifact that is a free sacrifice outlet to make you mana. And that's a fine card, but it's more Commander where you want to be making like lots of mana. That's not really where Cube is. We want to be ending the game, or we want to be finding the pieces to help us end the game. Ashnod's Altar isn't really as good as that. So kind of like, again, keep these things in mind when you are thinking about what pieces and which type of card you want to include in your cube. There is a fourth part of this. Like, if we have something like if we have something like a Murderous Redcap in there, that can win us the game. If we have the Altar of Dementia in there or the Bombardment in there, that can win us the game. But there is a fourth card you can add to this deck, or there's a fourth type of card you can add to this combo if you don't have those bits. And it can be nice to, again, have these cards in the deck, but just because they overlap with some of the cards in the deck, and that is Blood Artist effects that drain out a player whenever a creature or a creature you control dies. Now, ideally, we wouldn't be going up to a 4-card combo. I was talking about Commander before. 4-card combos, very Commander. But in a cube that is supporting Sacrifice Outlets and fodder for Sacrifice Outlets, Blood Artist or Blood Artist adjacent cards might just be fine cards. So including one as another way of either stabilizing you or taking out an opponent, and while it's also working with the combo, is a thing that is worth mentioning.
Yeah, for sure. I would say if you don't have other good uses for Blood Artist type effects in your cube, I wouldn't add them for Persist combo. I would make sure that your Persist combo package has enough ways to win the game. But if you're supporting Aristocrats or you're supporting some of your other combo decks that want Blood Artists, then it will be a relevant piece for this deck if you're if some of your Sac Outlets don't win you the game and you're trying to combo off with a Putrid Goblin or whatnot.
Cool, so we've got our combo, James. We have some of these cards in our cube and we've drafted some of them. What else do we need in order to support them? Because in an ideal world, we'll draw the Sac Outlet that scries us to the Persist creature that scries us to the combo piece. But things don't always work out that way. Things can come out of the deck out of order. What type of cards can we run to help us make this deck more consistent and actually make it more powerful?
Yeah, this is the key part, I think. This is the part I see a lot of cubes missing, which are running, trying to support this Persist package, right? It's a 3-card combo. It's a 3-card combo where stuff dies. Hoping to just draw all this stuff in the right order and cast your cards is not a winning proposition. You'll end up just putting bad cards in your mediocre creature deck and losing. You really need to be very good at finding these pieces before this becomes a good strategy. Okay, so how are we going to do that? I think Birthing Pod is a really nice inclusion here.
Whoa.
And it's just such a sick card, right?
Proper Magic cards here, James.
Yeah.
Good.
But and this is, to be fair, this is the power level of cube where I'm pitching this deck as well, right? Is in the sort of cube that wants Persist combo, Birthing Pod is a good card, right? But the cool thing about Birthing Pod is it is naturally synergistic with Persist creatures inherently, right? Like you sack your Persist creature, you go get a more expensive creature, your Persist creature comes back, you can do it again. That's just like a really good value play. But Birthing Pod, like, if you've built your deck correctly, the pod will basically assemble your whole combo for you with like almost any creature as a starting point, right? You have a Birthing Pod and a Fintorn Elves that will eventually get you to your combo, right? Because you go like you pod into your Persist creature, you sack your Persist creature, you go get your free, you can like Ewit or whatever, you will get there. But I mean, more realistically, right, it's like I drew one part of the combo, I can like pod for another part and then get it back. This sort of does it all for you. It takes some time, it's expensive. Be mindful of like on what order you're deploying your combo pieces. Do you have good ways to get them back? You will need them. You don't want to end up in a spot where like, oh, they killed the one piece I put in play and now I have no way to access it. But pod gives you access to your whole library in a well-built pod deck, right? So this is a really good way to set it up.
Yeah, if you want a bit more information on pod, we have an episode where we did a deep dive into build-arounds. Pod is a great one, and it really, really does shine in a deck like this. In a similar, since Birthing Pod, James, we've had a number of different variants, shall we say, including a card called Birthing Ritual. This is 1 green for an enchantment. This is at the beginning of your end step. If you control a creature, look at the top 7 cards of your library. Then you may sacrifice a creature. If you do, you may put a creature card with mana value X or less from among those cards onto the battlefield, where X is 1 plus the sacrificed creature's mana value. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So this is definitely a homage to Birthing Pod, but we get it on our end step. And what's nice about this is that we get to look before we sacrifice. So 7 cards, digging 7 cards in a cube deck, it's a lot of cards. We can really dig and find the bits that we want with this card. And also, if we have any type of curve or any kind of persist creatures out, we can pick off the one that we want in order to play the card that we're going to be getting from our deck. Yeah, Birthing Ritual seems like a really cool one in this type of deck, James. Would you agree? Yeah,
I really like it. It's I guess, slightly worse than Pod if all you care about is assembling this combo, but it is a much better card. I hate to say it. It's a better card for Pod in like most contexts,
James,
right?
James, no.
Like it's 2 mana and it's free to activate. I don't know, man. It doesn't set up your combo quite as reliably, but it's just naturally synergistic with Persist Creatrues in the same way that it's a great value engine. Like the decks you put these in are going to have a lot of creatures. So these cards are going to work really nicely.
No, that seems very good. Pains me. You're probably correct. I mean, I think Birthing Ritual is in my cube and Birthing Pod isn't, so maybe that's the sign of where we are, but...
It's sad, isn't it?
One's an icon.
On the other hand, one is banned in Modern, so clearly Birthing Pod is better, you know?
Yeah, we go. Yeah. Okay. But Birthing Ritual is the fixed version. Okay, I like that. Yeah. 2 cards that I think are worth reading together are Eladamri's Call and Worldly Tutor. These are both creature tutors. These are both nice cards that effectively the creature combo deck kind of can just get. Like cards like Demonic Tutor are very powerful. They're taken very highly in high-powered cubes. But Eladamri's Call, that is a green and a white for an instant. Search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And Worldly Tutor, which is a single green for an instant. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, you got to reveal it.
Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top. So these are both cards that realistically only the combo deck is going to get. So, but in that deck, they are very good. These let you skip the whole, I need to scry, I need to draw the card. It's like if you start with, like effectively these are the other half of the combo or the other third of the combo in your hand whenever you draw them. That can be really, really powerful in a deck where it's not a 2-card combo, it is a 3-card combo, maybe even a 4-card combo if one of the bits wasn't opened maybe in a larger cube. So these really can effectively just tie the room together. And if when I've supported Persist Combos, I think I've had both of these in my cube to really like specific, like Worldly Tutor is a good card. It goes in cubes because it can like help you do your flash stuff and that kind of stuff. But like specifically Eladamri's Call, because it is that 2 different colors of mana in the colors of this deck, it's effectively it is a signpost card for this deck that it is there. Basically, that's how I view Eladamri's Call nowadays.
Yeah, that checks out. These cards are great. They just add so much consistency, and it's cool, like that they I think a lot of cubes that are going to want to run this sort of combo probably don't want to go up to a power level of something like a Demonic Tutor or a Vamp, and it's cool having tutors that specifically the creature combo deck gets to use.
No, I'd agree with that. Keeping it with creature tutors, talk to us about Survival of the Fittest, James. One of my favourite cards in all of Magic. Why is Survival of the Fittest good in a creature combo deck, James?
Because it says search your library for a creature and put it into your hand. And you can keep doing it.
It's very repeatable.
No, survival's great. So survival, if anyone doesn't know, I guess is 1 green for an enchantment. So you can pay a green, discard a creature card from your hand, search your library for a creature, reveal it, put it into your hand. You can keep doing that. Card's kind of cracked. You're also often going to want to have ways to recur creatures from your graveyard in this deck as well, like just because, people will kill your creatures and they're important, you want them in play. And survival obviously combines nicely with that. But this is just powerful as well in terms of I get to turn my Elvish Mystic into my combo piece, right? And that's everything we want to do.
Yeah, it also like Birthing Pod, powerful card, we do like it. Like this has no correlation in terms of like mana up or down. You don't have to do any kind of deck building constraints. It's just have a creature in hand, and that's that in a creature combo deck where a large portion of your deck is going to be creatures, phenomenal Magic card. Yeah, absolutely love it. And then different to that, James, kind of like we've gone over tutors. Talk to me about Malevolent Rumble. This seems more like, is this just like brainstorm in this deck, would you say? Like read us Malevolent Rumble and then tell us what we're doing with it.
It's everything. It's like brainstorm, but it's also Lotus Petal and Elvish Visionary, you know? So Malevolent Rumble is 1 green for sorcery. Look at the top 4, put a permanent into your hand, and the rest go to your graveyard. This is an incredible card. I've made the argument before. I think this is the best mono green card in Powered Cube at the moment. I think that's how good I think it is. It does everything you want. It's you get selection, you get acceleration, you even get a trump blocker if you want it. The card's great. For this deck, this digs really well for your pieces. It gets you mana acceleration, it gets you on the board. This can also just be a stand-in though for there's other powerful look at the top X cards your library for a creature, right? Like Once Upon a Time is obviously great in this deck as well. But yeah, these powerful selection spells that hit creatures are just going to be strong here.
Yeah, and the fact that it's permanent as well means that like it's not dead even if you have some of the combo bits, but even if you don't hit a combo bit, getting a land so you can curve out is also fine. Yeah, I think the best mulch ever printed. Fair to say.
Yeah, mulch is sadly showing its age a little.
Nice. So kind of like we've kind of gone over the different bits that kind of you need to consider for this deck to appear in a cube, and kind of like the bits you need to like. Realistically, you need all of these bits if you're drafting the deck as well. But let's actually kind of take a step back, James. Let's talk about the type of cubes that this can go into, because combos sound powerful. Am I right? Like A plus B equals winning the game. Like when we think of combos, we think of busted and powerful things. But kind of like that isn't really the case with Persist Combos, is it? Like Persist Combos is a archetype that has been tried for a fair amount of time now. I feel it's safe to say we have the data on where it belongs. Kind of like, how do you feel about Persist Combos in cubes as we come to the end of 2025, moving into 2026?
Yeah, I think they're really cool. I think they're interesting. I think they're fun to draft. I think they can be powerful, but it needs to be in the right environment with the right tools around it, you know? And it needs an environment that gives it a little bit of room to breathe, I think. And to be honest, I don't think this is really limited to Persist Combos. I think this is just true of Creature Combo in general. I don't really think Creature Combo works in higher power level cubes. The thing is, for 3 mana plus creatures now are so powerful that you kind of have to kill them all anyway, right? Like, there are so many 3 or 4 mana creatures that snowball and win the game if left unchecked, basically by themselves. But why would you put creatures which need to both be in play at the same time in order to do something, you know? It kind of doesn't stack up, right? So I think for the creature combo stuff to be good, you just need to turn down the gas a little bit on how good the standalone threats are. And that also lets you kind of turn down how efficient the removal is. And to be, I'm not saying this has to be in your, you know, like super janky, no one does anything until turn 8 cube. But it does, I would say, if like Ragavan and Ocelot Pride are in your cube and Dismember and Swords to Plowshares are in your cube, then Kitchen Finks shouldn't be, you know?
It's more than that. Like when LSV was talking about the Arena cube recently, like he was saying Oust is a high pick, and I don't think he's wrong. But if we're in a world where Oust is like a super high pick, that is not an environment that is nice to, yeah, as you mentioned, to creature based combo decks, and and yeah, as you mentioned, it's because these just creatures have got better, like very, very like. It's almost like an exponential curve the last couple of years. Creatures have got better, and it just means that kind of that you don't have it in more high power level cubes and more streamlined, efficient cubes. you don't have room for things that aren't streamlined and efficient.
Yes, exactly. And, I'm not trying to say like one of these cube experiences is better than the other, but I think it is fun to build cubes where, you have to put something together. You have to, your cards aren't all winning the game by themselves, And I think, you need that sort of environment, right? Before you're interested in assembling a 3-card combo where, because the thing is, it's not just a 3-card combo, right? You can say, Brain Freeze, Lion's Eye Diamond, Underworld Breach is a 3-card combo, right? But that you can do from your hand in the same turn for a shockingly low amount of mana. This, you're often, if you're running it all out on the same turn, it's going to be a lot of mana, right? It's not going to happen that early. If you're playing them out early, obviously they're very vulnerable. And even if you deploy them in the same turn, right, your opponent is going to have creature removal in their deck. Some of it's going to be instant speed. They're going to have opportunities to interact with this. So often how this is going to play out, right, is your deck needs to be able to grind a little bit, right? You're going to play some of these people, they're going to die, you're going to get them back, you're going to find more. And this is why it's important that your cards are, like, not terrible, like, because you can, like, play a fair game, but your end game is you assemble this combo, right? And that's what finishes the game for you.
No, definitely. And, like, I really don't want people to kind of think that we've kind of spent all this time talking about Persist Combos to then be like, but it's completely unplayable, because that's not the point of this at all. Persist Combos are very, very cool, but it is just finding where they sit. And just the more I meet more people who play Cube, the more, like, I'm seeing like the more I'm seeing things like Cube Clash and just experience more cubes. There is so much more room for Cube than just the top end power, and Persist Combo is something that really can find its place in a bunch of different cubes. Like if we did have to give it a power level ranking, James, where are we thinking? If like it's not vintage, are we saying like legacy? Are we saying like a modern powered level cube? Like kind of where are we falling with it, would you say?
So the thing I have with all those classifications now, right, is I think they've got a lot closer together in reality because of Modern Horizons, basically, right? Ocelot, Fire, Ragavan,
and these are all modern cards, aren't they?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
These are all cards I don't want in this cube, to be honest. I would say it doesn't have to be. I'd say this is a combo for mid power level cube. And it's going to be a cube where you're not. You're not running people over by turn 4, and the removal is correspondingly toned down, right? Like, I don't want Fury to be in this cube because it's going to be a sad time. But if those things are true of your cube, I think this is a really fun deck, and I'd also just like argue for people want a variety of cube experiences, right? I would argue for building some, if you're building multiple cubes, I'd argue for building some cubes like that, because I think they're a very different play experience. I'm not like moaning about the current state of the higher power level cubes, but they're
that's for a different episode.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying I wouldn't do that, but I'm not doing that right now. But they do kind of play out in there's quite a common pattern to them now, right? Because they've got pushed in that direction by stuff like Modern Horizons and the really powerful cheap threats we've got. And I think having some cubes which are not about that is good variety,
No, I'd agree with that. I currently have 2 cubes. Spoiler for next week's episode: it's about to become 3. I'm expecting. But yeah, my second cube is the perfect environment for this. It's just I'm trying food in that slot, like in the Abzani slot. That Persist Combos would fit in there very nicely. Like I have aristocrats in there. Like I could slip in some Persist creatures and it would not be an issue and it would work. But yeah, I agree with that. There is one other point or place for this I wanted to touch on, and that is Peasant. A lot of the cards that we have talked about are commons and uncommons. Like Kitchen Finks, Murderous Redcap, Putrid Goblin, Safehold Elite. Those are commons. Things like Anafenza, Anafenza is now an uncommon. So is Good Fortune Unicorn. So is Grumgully. These are all uncommons. Like Viscera Seer is an uncommon. So is things like Carrion Feeder. Like is Goblin Bombardment an uncommon? Goblin Bombardment is an uncommon. So you can build a pretty like you lose some of the creature tutors, but that's probably fine for that level, that power level. But like I personally think that kind of like peasant cubes. This combo is really nice there because you also don't have access to many of the other combos like KG Splinter Twin. I need to find another example, but like those involve rares for now, probably anyway. But like Cat Flicker thing with Saheeli that involves rares and mythics. This is a great this fits. It ticks all the boxes we want from a combo for cube. That's why we're talking about it. There's a bunch of redundant effects for it in every slot. And there's enough of it in Peasant to make the deck work while giving an environment that doesn't normally get these type of combos, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I really like that idea. I think Peasant, again, obviously it gives you the time to set up, so that's good. And I'm a big advocate of just because it's a lower power level cube doesn't mean you can only do fair stuff, you know? You can just have combo stuff that takes a little more putting together. I think this is a really good candidate. Yeah, I really like that idea.
Nice. And one other thing we wanted to touch on in terms of the type of cube that we're looking to include these in. Like, do you think that kind of like having other creature-based combos in the cube helps the Persist combo exist? Kind of like if people are in the mindset of I need to try and build this combo, or if people are like already in the mindset of kind of like, oh, I'm going to try and combo up in some way, like is that kind of a good home for all of these pieces? Like there's a bunch of other combos, James, kind of like creature-based combos out there. Kind of like, do you think they all kind of fit in one place?
Yeah, I think if you're doing creature combos, I really like leaning into it, you know? Because the thing that lets you do right is you need all these setup cards around the creature combos to make them work. And if you're only having one little combo, like it's fine, you can still include them, but you're not going to be able to include all of them. And whereas if you include a bunch of different creature combos, you get to include all those cards. They'll see play, and it also lets you take those cards early and with confidence that you will find something to do with them. You know. You're not going to be like, oh, I've got all these great shooters and I've got a Persist creature and a Sac Outlet, but I just never got that final piece, you know? Because you can take your Aladamri's Call and your Birthing Pod and spec on some combo pieces and have some confidence that at least one of them will pan out, right? And there's a bunch of other creatures combos you can include in this battle of cubes. You can have stuff like Heliod Walking Ballista, stuff like the Devoted Druid combo we talked about, stuff like the Rosy Costa, the Scurry Oak combo is good. There's like Warren Soul Trader, Gravecrawler stuff. There's the like Safi Eric Stotter shenanigans where you these are all cool and interact combos, and they all have a ton of overlapping pieces, right? So I really like just chuck all these in and a bunch of creature tutors and ways to set them up, and people will make some decks out of them. You know, I think it will pan out. And honestly, I think it's kind of a more interesting thing to do in the like green-white Abzan space than just, here's Selesnya +1/+1 counters or Selesnya tokens or whatever. Like, those archetypes are fine, but this is a little bit different, you know?
No, I'd agree with that. And like some of those it will dovetail with as well. But yeah, having it be a Abzan is we're getting wacky, or Abzan, we're doing a thing. We're doing some combos. I think it's quite nice. Just going back to one thing I did mention earlier, is just make sure you don't have any nombos in there. Like things like like I mentioned, the Undying creatures with the Persist creatures, they don't really interact how you want them to. Just make sure of that kind of thing. But there's plenty of websites where it will just list combos with cards. It's literally how I built the combo section for my Treat Yourself cube. Was just like, ooh, this card works with this, but it also works with these three other cards. What do these three work with? And basically, you're looking for like a spider's web of things that work together. Basically, is the best. It's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, for sure. Give the people the tools, and they will make something work. Yeah, I think avoiding nombos that look like they should work is especially important, right? Like I think Malera Devoted Druid is kind of a classic one of these.
Yes, that's a real pain, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it really looks like it should work how you want, and it just doesn't.
Yeah, so one last thing we kind of want to touch on is like, we did mention some archetypes there, but let's kind of just really follow that up with like, where does this archetype overlap? Like, how can you realistically include it? Because like, there is a world where like one thing we touched on is just raw dog including persist, like the three things we need, like just including 4 persist creatures, 4 sac outlets, 4 things that work with persist isn't really the way that this deck functions. Like, you need like for me anyway, I think it works best when all the bits at least are not like at least are defendable in another deck. Like Putrid Goblin can't just be there as a blocker. You need to be doing something with it, I think, anyway. So like a couple, like some of them are going to be obvious, but we've already touched on them. So things like Aristocrats. If you have like Aristocrats in your cube, Persist Combos gets a lot better because you're already going to be running the Sac Outlets. Like all the Sac Outlets in this cube, all the Sac Outlets that we've mentioned, you were going to be running anyway. So therefore it's, rather than like you need to run these 3 different types of cards, you only really need to add the Persist creatures and the payoffs. You don't need to add the Sac Outlets. Like, that is much nicer. Like, would you go along with that, James?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest overlap, right? Because all the Sac Outlets work. Plus, like, if you have an issue with your Sac Outlet not winning the game, you'll even have like Blood Artist type stuff in the cube for free, which you might end up running.
No, nice. And then a trickier one, because Selesnya still really struggles with its identity in cube, is +1/+1 counters. Like some of the creature-based ones, things like Good Fortune Unicorn, things like Arwyn, things like Railway Brawler. These are fine Magic cards, but again, as I mentioned earlier, they get better if we have like an Ozolith there. So if like our other creatures get 2 counters, if our Scythecat Cub that's in this deck as well for some reason, because it's good, starts getting like has some additional synergy as well. Things like that, kind of like, again, additional synergy to really tie it together, I think will work quite nicely. And like counters, again, so Aristocrats was giving us the Sacrifice Outlets. The +1 counters deck can give us the effect that negates the persist, and that can be quite nice as well.
Yes, for sure. I think it's good in that you get a bunch of these effects for free, right? I would say the one slight difference is that the Aristocrats deck wants the good cheap Sac Outlets,
yes,
whereas the pieces to stop your -1/-1 counters going on, like
okay,
sure,
yes.
the +4/+1 counters deck, there are some that deck does want, but it's not the cheap ones, right? It's not Vizier of Remedies, it's not Malera, it's
it is.
Good Fortune Unicorn, which costs 3 mana, it's Arwen, Weaver of Hope, which costs 3 mana, or it's Anafenza, which theoretically costs 2 mana, but you can never actually cast.
Yeah, a lot of those aren't, Good Fortune Unicorn, famously a 3 mana 2/2.
Yeah, like it's So I guess what I'd say with this, right, is that it is synergy because you will get to have more pieces in the cube that work in that slot, right? And if you don't get the good one, well, maybe you get an Arwyn or a Railway Brawl or whatever, and maybe that's fine, or you get a bit more redundancy. But I would advocate for like still having one of the 2 mana ones in at least, and be like, because I think it's fine to have like 1 or 2 slots where this is just for this deck, right? That just can't be all the pieces.
No, I'd go with that. The last one I'm throwing, I've added last minute as a bit of a curveball because I think it's cool. Is there is a bit of a goblin overlap in this archetype, which I think is rad. Again, not one for every cube, but it's cool when I want to talk about it. You have enough creatures, or there is a goblin package that does all the persist creatures, and then you get all the benefits of being a goblin deck. So obviously, Putrid Goblin is a persist creature that is a goblin. Grumgully the Generous. I'll actually read this one because we didn't read it earlier. Grumgully effectively. Grumgully is 1 and a Gruul for a 3/3 legendary creature Goblin Shaman. Whenever another non-human creature you control enters, it enters with an additional counter on it. So that is our negate the persist creature side of things. And then we have Slingan Lieutenant, which is a sacrifice outlet that wins us the game. It is not loading.
It is. I bet I can do this from memory. It is 3 and a black for a 1/1 goblin. I reckon when it enters, it makes 2 more goblins.
2 red goblin creature tokens, yes. Good.
Yeah. And you can sack a goblin to deal a damage to an opponent.
Ooh, no, it's better. Target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life.
Oh, there we go. Nice.
But that is our infinite. But that is our free sacrifice outlet that wins us the game. So with those 3 cards, you do have a infinite persist combo, and it's all with goblins. You do also have Warren Soul Trader as a nice little backup. It is a goblin as well, which is quite nice. That's one that makes us treasure. But then to tie it all together, we even have tutors. We have things like Goblin Recruiter, 1 red, 1/1. When it enters, search your library for any number of goblin cards, reveal them, and then shuffle your library and put those cards on top. There's a bunch that there's as Goblin Matron that I think is tutors for 1 card. Again, I am not saying, James, that Arena Powered Cube Season 2, I want some goblin shenanigans. But that's kind of cool. Like there will be some cubes that will be the correct level of way of doing this, kind of like doing it as like a cool goblin aside. Because there are some other cool goblin combos with things like Skirt Prospector and like Fecundity to draw you a bunch of cards, all this kind of stuff. Like, again, niche, but I think we're in a world where like the next time I personally put Persist Combos in a cube, I kind of want to be doing something odd with it, and I'm here for goblin fun.
I think this sounds cool. Yeah, it's not really something I'd thought about, but it does mean I get to cast Goblin Recruiter and cube, which I'm really here for.
They're all also uncommons.
Oh, shit.
There we go. Cool. Okay, that's hot. Okay, peasant goblins, you're welcome.
Nice. I'm also interested in a non-peasant version where I get to Birthing Pod away my squee and my squee comes back for, you know?
Ooh, value, okay.
Yeah. And maybe we like the top of the curve is a Muxus. I don't know.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. It sounds like there's something you could do.
Yeah, see, that's and that is one of the cool things with this combo. It's kind of like, because to an extent, only the persist creatures are set in that they have to have persist. There's a bunch of other free sacrifice outlets out there. There's a bunch of other payoffs out there. As time will go on, we will find more cool things. And the Goblin one might not be the most raw power level, but I think it's fun. And there will be other ones out there. And again, we have a new Lorwyn set with some persist stuff on the horizon. Let's see what we get. I'm very intrigued to see what this. But hopefully, with this episode, we've kind of gone over what you're looking for from your individual bits. This episode will still be relevant even after more cards have been printed, because we know if there's a new persist creature, does it fall in the bracket of, is it cheap and efficient, or does it have a cool ETB? If so, we can consider it, that kind of stuff. And I think that's one of the nice things about this combo, is that it has the flexibility to do interesting things that kind of surprise you.
Yes, for sure. I think the Goblins thing is a great example of there are different directions you can take this, which overlap with other different archetypes, and I'm really here for it. I'm just Googling cool goblins now. Can I interest you in Goblin Surgeon to protect your combo?
That is tight. I'm also quite dumb, James. We also talked about Murderous Redcap. That's a goblin anyway.
Yeah, Redcap's a goblin. A bunch of this stuff is goblins. Putrid Goblin, obviously a goblin. Also, stuff like Slimefoot and Squee is a goblin, right? And that's just gets all your pieces back.
Ooh.
And it's pretty nice for a Birthing Pod. I think how do we feel about just Jund Goblin combos? You know, because there's also that Goblin Idiot where gets the activated abilities of the top card of your library if it's a goblin. That card's cool.
Yes, Yeah. Is it Snoop?
Yeah. Conspicuous Snoop.
Okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. James, I'm going to end the episode there before we derail ourselves by talking about Goblin Combos anymore. But if you want to hear about Goblin Combos and you're listening to this podcast, do make sure that you subscribe to the channel, give the podcast a 5-star review, give us a thumbs up, and maybe it's more than likely now that we've actually had this conversation, we will talk about cool Goblin Combos at some point in the future, because I'm kind of here for it.
Yeah, it sounds dope. This is... I know what cube I'll build next. It might have stupid goblins in it.
Tight. All right, awesome. James, pleasure, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, always a pleasure.
All right, nice one. Thank you all very much for listening. Until next week, it's goodbye from me and it's goodbye from James, and we'll see you all soon. Goodbye.